Hey everybody, we're just going to have a short PowerPoint here to talk about part of what was discussed in Chapter 6. I know this is a lot of information about verbs. Remember, all of this information, I want you to go through it, try and get an idea, but it's not something I think that is realistic or reasonable to ask people to sort of memorize. I mean, that's why you have the book, you're going to be able to use this, but it does give you sort of a starting point, a frame of reference for a lot of grammatical issues. You know, one of the things in Chapter 6, they talk about the 6 major kinds of variation in the structure of verb phrases, and those are tense, aspect, voice, modality, negation, and finite clause types, which is also called mood. We're just going to look at a couple of those in this PowerPoint. Aspect can have simple aspect or unmarked, and it can also have the perfect, the progressive, and then the perfect progressive. Perfect aspect, typically it describes events or states taking place during a preceding period of time, and it can be either combining with the past or present tense. We have written to Mr. Stephen, he had seen him picking purses. And the progressive aspect describes events or state of affairs in progress or continuing. And that also can be combined with present or past tense. Jeff is growing his beard out. That's why I was thinking I might hang on to this Volvo. And then you can also have perfect progressive where both of those aspects are marked. God knows how long I've been doing it. He had been keeping it in a safety deposit box. The other topic I just want to touch on briefly here is modality. I'm going to jump over voice, but I want you to still look at that. But for modals, these are the auxiliary verbs that give an attitude or stance, or in many cases, a time marker. And the most common ones are must, may, might, can, could, shall, should, will, and would. Now, the things you should know about modals, they act as auxiliary verbs, which you guys were mentioning in the quiz, which is good, in verb phrases. They cannot take any inflections, so there is no cans or musts or wills, and they typically do not precede a negative particle in not negation. So I cannot go. But however, in yes/no questions, they go before the subject. Can you go? And they also will have a bare infinitive. And that means that there's no inflection on the verb. So he can go, not he can goes. Although you will see that. I guarantee it. And a lot of times they're going to express attitudes relating to the possibility, necessity, or obligation. Typically, you're only going to use one modal at a time, typically. We also have something called the semi-modals. And these are multi-word constructions that function like modals. We had one of those in the quiz, if you remember. I have to read it again. So there's have to, going to, used to, ought to. And oftentimes the meaning can be paraphrased using a central modal verb. I have to read it again. I must read it again. And the meaning, you know, the differences in meaning, it's interesting whether there really is a difference or not. Now, some of the semi-modals are fixed and they're not inflected for tense or person, but some, like have to and going to, are marked for tense or person. So it's I have to do something, but he has to do something. And it's in the past, he had to do something, unlike the other modals. And sometimes semi-modals can be used together, or they can be combined with a central modal, such as we will have to do it soon, as in the future, and it's an obligation. I think the teachers are going to have to be there. Are going to have to be there. Again, future and obligation. Let's look at time. Central modals can be used to make time distinctions, but they're not marked for tense. Typically, that means that will and shall can be used to refer to the future, and the semimodal going to is also used for future time. And you'll see that in a lot of grammar books. That's essentially what they call the future. And also, some central modals can be matched together to refer to past and non-past time. And I would argue a lot of times people talk about it as past and present. Can and could. People would say can is like the present, could is in the past, may is in the present. Well, I don't know about might in the past. Shall and should, will and would, definitely. People, and you'll see grammar books that talk that. As I mentioned, modals, you can't combine them with tense, but they can combine with aspect and voice. So that means that you can have may have come. They may come or they may have come. And they will be coming back. You can do that. And you can put it into the passive voice to produce the best results. The plant should be supplied. So notice they can't combine with that S or the S for the third person singular or the past tense, but they can combine with these other. And here are some examples of aspect and tense and modality combined. And that's about it for this. Read through the chapter. Let me know if you have any questions. I really want you to start focusing on your pedagogical exercise. But please let me know if you have questions about this continuing focus on verbs.